Earlier this year, we reviewed the Acer Swift X, and when they launched the product, we kind of asked the question, why? But after we reviewed the product, we kind of are sold on the idea of a thin and light content creator type laptop that can do anything between video editing and audio editing, except for 3D rendering. While not without its flaws, the Swift X kind of filled a market gap that we never really knew existed. And that also gave birth to this, the Acer Swift X. In a sense, this Swift X is a spiritual successor to the Swift X, except this comes with an AMD Ryzen $7 5800U processor. At least this one does. And it's also more expensive than the Acer Swift X at 4,999 ringgit. Visually, other than the paint scheme, nothing much has changed between the Acer Swift X and the Acer Swift X. Except you're paying more money, so you're getting a much more powerful GPU with this Swift X. It's a gaming grade NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3050 Ti. So is this now the Swift that you should get? Can the body even handle that much power? And this thin and light, is it even worth that 4,999 asking price? And should you get one if you're an aspiring content creator? Now this is the review of the Acer Swift X. If not for the differing color schemes, I think you can very easily mistaken this Swift X with its older model, the Swift X. And that's also because I kind of think that they're using the same chassis. That's not a bad thing though, because this is an aluminum chassis all around. Visually, there are some updates on the Swift X that makes it stand out a little bit more. For one, the hinge plate is now the same color as the back plate, which makes it a little bit more subtle. And we kind of feel that the Swift logo is a little smaller, but we're not complaining about that. At the same time, there's still the two-tone design that the Swift X was known for. You will still find the enlarged cooling vent on the top right corner of the keyboard plate, and that's also the same design that you get from the Swift X. But while it's not something that we like, it is functional because of the powerful GPU this contains. There is still the same fingerprint sensor that you'll find on the bottom right corner. It's also the same keyboard layout, exactly the same backlighting as well. Really, if not because of the different colors, we really can mistake it as a Swift X, and really it's the same laptop. That also means that this is still a very thin laptop. At 17.9mm, it may not be the thinnest laptop out there, but it is still very thin for modern standards. And at 1.39 kilograms, it's not exactly heavy either, considering especially that this packs an AMD Ryzen $7 5800U, a very powerful CPU, and that is supported by an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3050 Ti, and that makes this an entry-level gaming laptop. You're getting the same keyboard as the Swift X, so in terms of typing experience, it's not that much different. It's still a good keyboard, it's not mechanical good, tactility is a little limited, and travel is a little short, but for a laptop, this is actually quite good and you can type quite a long time with it. We still kind of think that the directional keys are a little too small to even use, especially when you game with it, but luckily there's not much games that uses the directional keys here. It's mostly WASD and that's sizable. There's another thing that's a little bit annoying that also comes from the Swift X, is that the power button is right on the top right corner of the keyboard, and we tend to hit that accidentally a lot of times when we're typing out long articles. Again, like any other review that we do, we have to stress that we don't really do benchmarks. We do, however, play games and edit videos, so we're gonna jump right into that. The Swift X, they say, is made for productivity. Specifically, they're targeting the content creators. Now, this comes with an AMD Ryzen $7 5800U, which is definitely a content creator type of processor, and you're pairing that with a very powerful GPU in the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3050 Ti. On paper, this looks more like an entry-level gaming PC than any other Swift laptops that comes before this, and it does seem like it can handle a lot of content creation work. It also comes with 16GB of RAM, which is ample if you're considering to use it only for Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, and even web browsing. And if you're going to store a lot of documents on it, 512GB should be enough. But where it shines is more on the video editing side. With the kind of hardware you get from the Swift X, scrubbing through 4K videos is no problem. It's smooth, buttery smooth, and that is kind of what we expect from this kind of hardware. So we tried exporting an H.264 format video in full HD. Now our source files are H.265 4K format videos. We're trying to render a 2-minute video on Adobe Premiere Pro, and it took this Swift X 3 minutes and 35 seconds to render. We also tried rendering videos H.265 full HD format, and we took about 3 minutes and 53 seconds on the Swift X. We also rendered 4K videos at H.265 format, and we got about 5 minutes and 33 seconds from the Swift X itself. Then there's the gaming that you can do on this thing. We tried playing Cities Skyline, 2 Point Hospital, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and even Horizon Zero Dawn on it. With Cities Skyline and 2 Point Hospital, you're going to get very good performance out of this. You're going to be able to play at high settings with no problem, up to 60 frames a second. Meanwhile, on Shadow of the Tomb Raider and Horizon Zero Dawn, you do want to put the settings all the way down to low to get good performance out of it, or even playable settings out of it. Maybe even medium if you really want to push it, but recommended to play at low settings. Then there's the Dts speakers on the Swift X. You can't find a subwoofer in here because there's none. So the low ends are not that powerful, but it is still punchy enough with the 2 speakers it has. Still, mids and highs are pretty good, so you can enjoy movies and even music casually. You can't be an audiophile about it, but it is still pretty good and you can still enjoy a lot of things with it. You're not getting the fastest display out of the Swift X, but it is still a pretty good IPS display. You get 100% sRGB out of the full HD, which is slightly better than the Swift 3X's 72% NTSC coverage, which is about 99% sRGB, Adobe sRGB, which is slightly lower than what you're getting from here. It's not a glass protected display like Swift 5, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's still pretty much the same plastic bezels that you get from before, like the Swift 3X, but you still get very, very good color contrast, which also means that you get to enjoy the casual movies, YouTube, even Netflix and Amazon Prime Video, and you're not losing out too much on it. And you still can color grade on this because it's 100% sRGB. So to get anything better than this, you might want to buy a secondary monitor. Acer says that this laptop can last for about 17 hours at one go. In theory, that sounds amazing, but in actuality, you might not actually get that much battery life out of it. Now, instead of trying to save battery life like we did on the Swift 3X, we actually used this as typically and as normally as we could. We have a habit of leaving this laptop in battery saving mode, especially when it's unplugged, and we kept the screen brightness to a bare minimum, kind of what we're comfortable with. At 300 nits, it can get quite bright in a normal room situation, but in a well-lit room, we usually leave it on full brightness. In our typical use of the laptop, we usually use it for the regular internet browsing, a lot of emails, some YouTube, and a lot of Microsoft Word because we type a lot of articles and whatnot. We also usually have about 5 to 10 tabs open on Microsoft Edge and Firefox. We seldom use Google Chrome because RAM management is bad, but yes, that's our typical use. In our use case, we got about 8 to 10 hours out of its battery, and that equates to a full day of work, but that also means that you cannot be playing games on it or even edit videos on it to get that 8 to 10 hours. You can also sort of take it as if that once the battery dies, your work ends. And we also recommend that you keep your laptop plugged in when you edit videos or even when you're playing games. The fingerprint sensor is still as quick as before. Windows Hello sort of reacts almost immediately the moment you touch the fingerprint sensor, but that is if you have your fingerprint registered with the Swift X. And the Swift X also features a whole lot of I/O ports, full I/O ports in fact. Like you get the USB-A here, 3.5mm jack, USB-C, a full HDMI port, and another USB-A on the other side. Sadly, there is no SD card reader here, which is a bummer, especially when you're trying to sell it to content creators. And of course, for all your video conferencing needs, you have the 720p webcam on this. It's not the best, but it works, and that's important. Now this is the test of the webcam. At the same time, we did not record a video with audio at the same time. So this is the audio recording from the laptop itself. And we're saying that the camera placement is at the correct place so you don't get a double chin. As we mentioned, the Acer Swift X goes for 4,999 ringgit, and that's for the Ryzen 7 version. There is a Ryzen 5 version that goes for 4,299 ringgit. You're still getting the same GPU though. Like we mentioned earlier, this is a little bit more expensive than the Acer Swift X, but you're getting a lot more powerful hardware in the Swift X. For example, you're getting an AMD Ryzen 7 5800U, which is a workhorse of a CPU and a content creator type of processor that you're getting. You pair that with an NVIDIA GeForce RTX:3050 Ti. This is an entry-level gaming PC if you consider it to be. And you can even charge this with a USB Type-C if you really want. The Acer Swift X is not cheap by any means, at just below 5,000 ringgit. It is quite a lot of money, to be fair, but you are getting quite a powerful platform here. And in some cases, you can consider this as an entry-level gaming PC. In some cases, probably a little bit better. You get pretty decent battery life with the Swift X, and we're pretty sure that you can eke out more if you use it sparingly. There are some design flaws here, and they're very similar to the Swift X, but to be fair, they are using the same chassis, so that is quite expected. All in all, the Swift X is a very decent laptop, and it's something that we can easily recommend for aspiring content creators who are looking for laptops at below 5,000 ringgit. Let us know what you think of the Acer Swift X in the comments below. And if you like this video, do give us a thumbs up because that would help us a ton. Of course, we have a lot more videos like this on our channel, so do subscribe. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video.